Well, it's a bit of a different tool restore. These are rather sorry looking items. They're not actually my tools. I found these in a brick built shed which was at the back of my property when I bought this house, and obviously they've been left there by a previous owner, and the lump hammer particularly was very useful when I came to demolish that brick built shed. So yeah, but I'd forgotten all about them, and they obviously are in quite a terrible state. The cold chisel, I think, will just benefit from a clean up, going over on the wire wheel and a regrind on the end there. The lump hammer is fine, it's obviously well used, but that will clean up quite nicely, and then we'll remove that original hammer, which is obviously very badly split, and we'll put a nice hammer. We'll remove this handle, and then we'll put a nice new hickory handle on that, and it should be good to go. Very useful lump hammers. I know it sounds that you wouldn't really need to use those in model making at all, but just occasionally you do need to hit things with a bit of a clout, and the lump hammer, ideal for that usage. Right, let's get on and clean them up. I think you can see that already has made a considerable amount of difference, and that's this is only a brass wire wheel, so you know it's quite soft really, but it's yeah, definitely a considerable improvement on that. Right, well, I'm going to continue with that, and I'll come back when it's done. Well, I think you'll agree, a vast improvement. I should probably give the hammerhead another going over once I've got it off of the handle, which is the next thing to do. Well, there are all sorts of different ways of extracting an old hammer handle from a hammerhead. This is the way I do it. I just find this easy. So the first thing we're going to do is cut the old hammer handle off. Very easy, no problem. Metal cutting bandsaw turned up to its high speed because we're cutting wood. It's not really fast enough for wood, but it's fine, it works fine. It's not going to damage the blade or anything. So now we're going to get this bit out from the hammer head. So for the next bit, I'm just going to drill out the vast majority of what's left in the head, and that will collapse the bit of wood that's in there, and we'll be able to remove that whole lump. Not very highly technical, but it does the job. Catching on the wedge there, I think. Yeah, I'll be able to break this up now, and it should come out. Once you've drilled out the vast majority of the wood, it's fairly easy to pull the wedges out. There were two. This was actually made quite well, this one. There were two, and there was also the longitudinal wooden wedge in there as well, which is the way you're supposed to do it. Now once those are out, you can then quickly, I can just knock this out with the drift now, the remainder. And there we have it. Comes out really easy, no problem at all. Like I said, there are many other ways of doing this. I've just found this to be the easiest way of doing it, with very little effort involved, you know, no massive hammering and banging or anything like that. Once you've drilled through the remains, you can just tap out what's left in there, you know, fairly easily with just a drift. I shall clean up the inside of that. But the other nice thing, of course, is we've got the wedges. I can reuse those. They'll be cleaned up on the grinder. but they're still perfectly usable. So I did nick that one a bit with the drill, but that's not a problem. That still worked fine. So yeah, I just need to clean that up a bit further. The new handle that I've got, a nice new hickory handle for it coming that hasn't arrived yet, but that will be the next stage. So our new handle has arrived. It's got a crappy slot in the end because that was me who cut that, and I cut it a little bit wide and it's a bit wonky, but that doesn't particularly matter very much. Now, when you first get a new hammer handle, in this case a lump hammer handle, odds on it is not going to fit. It's going to be too tight, and this one is exactly that. So you're going to need to fettle this end, either sand it or shave it or whatever, to get, because you don't need this to be a really tight fit in here. It just needs to be a good fit, because you're going to put wedges in, so that'll hold it in place. So I'm going to get on and work on this with the file, and I'll come back when we've hopefully got it somewhere near actually fitting. Well, I've been some extensive filing on this on the edges, and I think it's about ready for a test fit. Now, the way you fit the head of the hammer to the hammer handle is a bit counterintuitive. You don't bash it on the head. What you do, and you'll see many people on YouTube do this, you have it upside down like this when you actually hit it. I'm going to move the camera back a bit so you can see what I'm doing. So you push that on so that it's tight on there. Then you hold it upside down like this. Take your mallet or soft blow hammer and just hit the head. And well, there you can see it's come a fair way through, but we're still not really there yet. It definitely needs filing on more on these edges, so I'm going to tap it off. Also, we want the slot to disappear up inside, and obviously want the head of the handle to come through the top. So a little bit more filing involved. Now, I've just done another test fit, and you can see we're getting close now. The ideal part about doing these test fits is these darker patches. That's where it's rubbing, and you can see there's an edge there where the bottom part is coming up into the bottom part of the hammer head. So I know exactly where I've got to do my filing. The top really doesn't need anything doing to it anymore. That's a good fit now. I've just got to narrow down this area here so that it's nearly there. It's probably within 1/4 of an inch of a top now. So I've just got to work on this area here. Right, time for another test fit. So push it on. So it's good. And it's definitely going in easier now since I've been doing my filing. Now hopefully this will be the one with a bit of luck. Okay. Yeah, well, we're very nearly there. Yeah, it's got to come up a way yet. We'll give it a couple more taps, but I think it probably is still going to need a bit more filing. Yeah, we're very nearly there now. It's coming up nicely. Just needs a bit more filing around this bottom here. I think that's where it's sticking. So let's do that. Well, let's see if this time is the good one. Right, there we go. Wow, look at that. I think we'll give it a couple of good extra whacks for good measure, but the split is well up into the slot for the wedge is well up into the hammer head, so that's good, but we will give it a few more knocks, but I think that'll do nicely. Yeah, we're just starting to come above the top now. Look at that, lovely job. Okay, now it's time to fit the wedge. Ooh. Sometimes the handles will come with their own wedge, but mine didn't, so I've just made up a simple one this will do the trick nicely. I'm going to use a bit of corrugated cardboard, which is what the handle actually came in, to wrap around it so I can hold it in the vise without damaging the handle. Right, let's see if we can get the wedge in. Now, I'm going to put a little bit of white glue on the wedge, just a little tiny bit. It's not strictly necessary, but you know, I like to do this. Not everyone does, but there you go. It's all down to personal preference. Well, here we go. Let's get this located nicely. Yes. Well, that didn't work out too well, did it? Make another wedge. Well, the first wedge didn't work out too well. Probably about half of it went in, but that's okay. That's no great problem. What we're going to do is I made another one. This time actually about mahogany. So hopefully this will finish the job. So we'll have better luck with this one. Yeah, much better. I've got a saw handy. Yes, we need to cut that off, and then we'll be ready to put the iron wedge in. Yeah, so that's gone in probably about halfway, so we'll just trim that off. There we go, lovely job. Very nice. Okay, so there we go. I've just cut that off and I've just smoothed it off with a bit of sandpaper. So now all I've got to do is put the metal wedge in. Now there were two metal wedges originally, but this is a very, very small head on this hammer, so I'm only going to use one. I don't really think it needs two. They will go in. It will go in slightly diagonally across the top there. Okay, so we've got it still just started off. Job done. There you go. And I can guarantee you that this hammerhead is not going anywhere. Well, that's just about done. It turned out all right. Apart from the wedge disaster, well, there you go. That just shows you don't use a crappy bit of wood for your wedge. Use a decent bit. But that wasn't that. I mean, yes, that was unfortunate, but it wasn't the end of the world. And sticking another bit of a wedge on top worked out fine. So that's now a perfectly serviceable lump hammer, and in a hell of a lot better state than it was when I started. I think the handle's been waxed, so what I'll probably do is rub it down, just sand it all off, and then give it a couple of coats of finishing oil just to finish it off. But yeah, this thing's got years of service in it now. So anyway, there you go. If nothing else, this video showed you how not to put a wooden wedge in when replacing a hammer handle. Hope you've enjoyed the video, and as always, thanks very much for watching. Cheers.